Hey, hey, welcome to Black Tomatoes here at Black Hollywood Live, for a special edition of the show. I have someone very special who might or might not have something to do with fruit. Stay tuned. Yes, sisters are doing it for themselves, and that would be me and my special guest for today, Miss Miranda Bailey, who is the CEO and founder of a wonderful organization of which I am a member called Cherry Picks. Welcome, Miranda.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Girl, yes, of course we have you. So, you are multi-hyphenate like me. You're an actress, you're a producer, you run Cherry Picks, you do all kinds, you're a writer, you do all kinds of stuff. So let's just start with how you transitioned from being an actor into your producer mode.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I think like a lot of actors, you know, you move to Hollywood and you think you're gonna like hit it right away, and I kind of did with the commercials, and that was fun. But then I was, you know, getting a lot of or very little acting jobs, but the ones that I was getting I didn't really like. Like I didn't love the story of it.
What kind of acting jobs were you getting?
Like soap, or like, you know, these, you know, the what do you call those? I'm trying to think what they are. They're like real stories.
Industrials?
Enacted.
Oh, reenactments?
Yeah, that stuff.
So like America's
yes.
Next Wanted or Most Wanted,
something like that. One
yeah.
I actually still get residuals from because it keeps like playing, but it's not one of those. It was like a story one. Anyway, and then I did this indie film where I was actually naked and treated like really poorly on film, and that's like a whole story within itself. And I was like, okay, I need to kind of take control of my acting career, and so I formed a production company with some other people that had more experience than me, and kind of partnered up also with a man because I didn't, you know, necessarily think anyone would take me seriously as a girl and an actress, and they do now, which is good. But
yeah, they do.
And so that's how it kind of started. And what happened was I found that I was pretty good at producing because I'm very bossy, and
you think,
and organized.
I love it. Okay, first let me just say that I love you so much. I love Miranda so much, and let me just tell y'all how we actually met. Apparently, Miranda knew about me way before I knew about her. She had been following the Curvy Film Critic, my blog, and then we sat on a panel together in association with the Los Angeles Film Festival where we totally bonded. It was like we were sisters from like another mother or something like that, and we just clicked. And you know, as well,
we were at the opposite ends of the table too.
Yes, and we were at opposite ends of the table. We weren't even sitting next to each other. But this is the thing, you know as well as I do in Hollywood, either you click with people or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult when you do click with someone because you have to really work at making that relationship work and fostering that business relationship, that personal relationship, because people here are real good for going, oh yeah, let's do lunch. Oh yeah, let's do tea. Oh yeah, let's hang out. And then when you call them, they're like, who are you again? How do I meet you? I'm like, really? Are we going to go there? Let's not do that. But that's how I met you. And I love you. And then you started talking to me about Cherry Picks. So tell the people about Cherry Picks and how you came up with that idea and what exactly Cherry Picks strives to do. And
yeah, sure.
Let the folks know.
Thank you. So Cherry Picks, thecherrypicks.com. It's a website, and so it's you know, inspired by Rotten Tomatoes. I produced. I had the idea for it, or actually the idea grabbed me. It was not. I was driving down Melrose. I had produced this movie with Lake Bell called I Do Until I Don't. I noticed that the way that men critics were writing about it was very different than the way women critics were writing about it. The Zookeeper's Wife had come out around that same time as well, and all my girlfriends loved it, and it just like didn't really get very good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And there was a lot of like news about studios being angry with Rotten Tomatoes because of, you know, Suicide Squad and stuff like that. So I was like looking about it, and then I looked into it and I realized that at that time there was, in the top critics, it was 78% were men. And I was like, well, of course they're going to be different. And I was like, well, that sucks. There should be more women than, or at least I should be able to like click and see, you know, what the women think, because that's what I want as a woman. And then I was driving down Melrose and my window was open and it was like Gardner, and then all of a sudden this idea flew in from the passenger side and like sat on my shoulder and was like, hey, you're going to start something called the Cherry Picks, and you're going to cherry pick the female critical voice out of movies, television, video games, music, etc., and you are going to create a website where people can go, and an online magazine where people can go and hear what women have to say about media.
I'm glad that you verified that it's across all different lanes and mediums and not just film, because people have a tendency in the industry that most of the people I know seem to think that Cherry Picks is specific to films.
Well, right now it is, because so that idea was just before Harvey Weinstein and Me Too and Time's Up and all that stuff. So obviously something was kind of kicking around in the air.
Growing,
and we're, we were all just kind of vessels for it, shall we say. And I didn't want to do it because I'm busy. I have a production company. I have a distribution company. I direct movies.
You're a mom.
I act movies. I have 2 kids. I think I have a husband. I haven't seen him in a while, but anyway, so like when I had the idea, I ran in and I told my producing partner, Amanda Marshall, like, hey, I've got this great idea. What do you think? She's like, I think it's a really good idea, and you are not doing that right now because you have to get in there and finish editing your Jim Gaffigan movie, and you're about to release your documentary in New York. So no. And I was like, okay, you're right. What am I thinking? What am I thinking?
Wow.
And then I went to Toronto Film Festival that year, and which was not this one but the past one. And every party I was at where there was critics, there was like no women. There was like 1 woman for every 10 to 17 guys. And then I was like, F this, I'm doing it. But Cherry Picks, who's sitting on my shoulder in the bathroom with me, in the shower with me, like constantly nagging at me to do it, I will only do it if I only know one person who can help me. She's my best friend's sister. She's done some web stuff for women. She's written books with women. She worked on Jill Soloway's website, and I was like, all right, I'm going to ask her if she's going to do it. Her name's Rebecca Odes.
I was about to say, are we going to say what her name is?
Yeah, her name's Rebecca Odes. She started Girl.com, like when .com started. She did Wifey TV with Jill Soloway. She's written like several books about women, whether it's like women's anatomy or puberty and all this stuff.
And Jill Soloway is the woman that created Transparent,
That's
right?
That's right. And I said, if she says no, I said this to Cherry Picks, the ghost of Cherry Picks. And I said, if she says no, I am not doing it. And then she said yes. And I'm like... So I've been doing it ever since, and I don't remember what the first question that you said. What does it do? Oh, so right now it started out as film because obviously, like, it's like building a website is an interesting learning process for me, which is really fun. But it's like remodeling a kitchen, so it costs
That's a good analogy.
more and takes longer than you think. But it's starting out with film, and then hopefully it'll do well, and from there we go to music, television, and all that stuff. Television will be next, and then music, and then video games. That's the layout. So
if someone is listening to this or watching this and decides, oh my God, that sounds like a great idea, I want to be a part of Cherry Picks, how do they go about doing that?
Well, it depends on who that someone is. So if you're a critic, if you're a film critic out there, so our site is in beta right now. We just launched like 4 weeks ago. It's thecherrypicks.com. And if you go up on the upper right-hand side, there'll be a little click that says, join to be a critic or apply to be a critic. So there's an application, and you fill out and you be a critic, and you submit things that you've already published, and your profile and whatnot. You'll get an email back that says, all right, we're working on it, because basically we're setting up film pages for critics right now. And those will be launched early in the spring, maybe end of the winter. And that way you'll be able to like put your photo up, you'll be able to pick all the stuff you want said about you, you'll be able to then upload your own, because right now we're aggregating and pulling everyone's critical voices or whatever from not Village Voice anymore, but New York Times or the Curvy Critic or whatever. We're pulling those to create our score. We have a different score than Rotten Tomatoes. We're not quite as binary. So as soon as those pages are built, which is happening right now, at least I'm paying for it to happen right now. So then people will get notice that they are, welcome to join and blah, blah, blah.
I love you for that.
Yeah.
Why did I did some research on it, and I saw that on a lot of the PR on Cherry Picks, it consistently says that it's the alternative to Rotten Tomatoes. Now, do you call it the alternative, or do you think it's been dubbed the alternative to Rotten Tomatoes because of what you just said earlier about the percentages of women critics on that site compared to men?
Well, I mean, I think we're calling it the female alternative to Rotten Tomatoes, because I think Rotten Tomatoes is still very necessary, and I think what Rotten Tomatoes is actually doing now, or at least saying that they're doing, in terms of trying to take on more minorities and more women, I think it's a great thing. This is basically just a way for, you know, like, girls like to know what other girls think, you know, and so it's really just about, like, how can we have a place where, you know, female writers can all kind of get to know who each other is. Female, you know, media consumers can get to know which critics that they like. It's different than Rotten Tomatoes. It's like, you know...
it's an alternative.
It's an alternative, you know? I think there's room enough for all of us. They're just like there's black tomatoes, there's room enough for all of us.
So what do you say to those, because this is what I found very interesting. I was a part of that article for the LA Times where they, written by Trevel Anderson, where it was focused on 14 underrepresented critics of color. And what I found very interesting about that is that right after that article came out, a lot of my peers and constituents that are middle-aged white men started to feel like, you know, this was some type of ploy to drive middle-aged white men out of the picture.
Yeah.
Some people might possibly think the same thing about Cherry Picks. What would be your answer to those cynics?
Well, I mean, there are many people who feel that way. I mean, I've gotten some, I've read some fear-based complaints, shall we say, on people's Facebook pages about Cherry Picks and also just kind of what's going on in the world. And I have to say, like, I understand that fear, and I understand where that's coming from. I mean, I have a son, and you know, there's so much talk right now about women, particularly, and minorities that perhaps, you know, these people are afraid. I actually was at a party the other day, and it was kind of odd because the girlfriend of the guy said, you should, she is a director, you should, you know, she did this movie, you should hire her. And he was like, yeah, well, because I can't get a job anymore. You know, like, and I was like,
I know.
And here's the thing.
Been
like,
there, done that.
I'm just going to say, and I know we're not allowed to say bad words on here, but bullshit. You can get a job, and you have gotten jobs, and they're like, just because we, women or minorities, are also being actually looked at for the jobs doesn't mean that the people hiring aren't going to pick the best people for the jobs.
And that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Let's just look at, this is the thing, and this was my criticism when certain critics were saying, oh, well, you know, I know it's not real popular to be a white guy right now. And I just had to say, listen, this isn't about you being white. This isn't even about you being a middle-aged white guy. What this is about, plain and simple, is adding more voices to the diaspora of film criticism. White middle-aged guys are not the only ones that go see movies. There are women that go see movies. There are children that go see movies. There are people from all ethnicities, races, age groups that go see film. Why is there only one faction of people talking about the film? Because what that does is it alienates the audience. Because if you read that review as a person of color, if you're reading something from a middle-aged white man, you're going, well, I wonder what that would have felt like if a woman of color had written that review. Like when it comes to something like Wrinkle in Time. Like what would that feel like if a woman of color wrote that review as opposed to a middle-aged white man? It would be very different because the viewpoint would be very different. It would be different from a woman point of view. It would be different from a woman looking at a little girl who's like the heroine of the film point of view. It's just different. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it different, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, and that's about tone. You know, it's about how we talk about white guys, middle-aged white guys, or whatever, and I think we should be a little nicer to them. You know what I mean? I don't think that being nice to them means pushing us down. I think raising us up does not. We do not have to push people down to raise us up.
Yeah, and that's I'm not saying that I'm not saying, and I didn't say this, and I didn't mean this then. I don't mean to push somebody else in order to raise you up, because that's not good karma, and nothing good's going to come from that. But what I am saying is just I'm just asking people to be a little more open.
Oh, they all should, yeah.
We
all should.
Right. Just be a little more open to hearing more voices in the diaspora. That's all I'm saying. And so when you said that, you saw some fear-based things, it was really interesting how people treated me when that article came out, because there was a video portion that accompanied that article. And there was that particular day, I went to 3 screenings that day. Nobody spoke to me.
What do you mean?
Nobody spoke to me. That day that LA Times article came out, I was in a screening with a bunch.
Nobody spoke to you? Like, who's the nobodies?
The critics. They were all the other critics. Nobody spoke to me except for 2 people. You know who the 2 people were?
No.
They were Leonard Maltin and Ben Mankiewicz. Those are the only 2 people that spoke to me that day.
Those guys are nice. Anyway, I love those guys.
They're sweethearts. But
who did it? And I will give me their phone numbers. I will find them.
But Miranda, I'm just saying, out of a whole theater full of people, those were the only 2 people that spoke to me that day. And that was a day for me. As a female film critic, I was so excited. I'm like, oh man, this is so great. I was on cloud 9, and then I went to 3 screenings back to back to back, and I was sitting down in the front where like the handicap seats are. I was sitting down there, and when I tell you, people literally looked at me dead in my face and didn't speak to me, and some of them still don't talk to me.
Well, that's their problem.
It is.
And it's like, but there's this in every industry. It's like if other people, there's always going to be people who, if you start having success, they're going to feel like it's some sort of a reflection of their failure or something, and that's just not true.
It's room for this is the thing. It's room for everybody. Yeah. There's room for some female directors. There's room for female producers. And I will so be happy and turn a cartwheel or run down the street naked the day that pronoun female and male is not put in front of director,
God, we're all going to see her run down the
film
street
critic. Naked. Well, let's hope hope it's later than sooner, because ain't nobody trying to see all this right now.
I don't know. Y'all think you look good. But... what was I going to say? You know what's kind of exciting about this time for me is that I think, so one of the other reasons why I wanted to start Cherry Picks is because for years, being in the industry as an actor, director, producer, and a woman, hearing we need more women behind the scenes, we need more women's stories, we need more women behind the camera. It's like, yes, yes, yes. And the studio's like, we want to, but there's just not a market for it, right? There's nobody else wants it. Or like, I'd have like minority leads or whatever, and they're like, well, we don't want this just to be like a city thing. We want people, in Middle America to see it too. And I'm like, there's black people in Ohio.
Hello, like, I'm from Missouri.
It was really weird. Like I've had these conversations that were odd. But what's happening now is I think that. Well, okay, let me just kind of like go back to my thought. So there's only one way that you can change what Hollywood makes, and that's by changing what the consumer buys. All right? And if the consumers are being told to buy something by a certain, what's worth their money, by a certain population that does not reflect them, then that's what they're going to buy. And so I felt like with Cherry Picks, at least for women, I could affect the population of females and female stories. And what's exciting to me right now is that there's movies like Crazy Rich Asians that, I'm sorry, I loved it. I'm not Asian. I know my husband loved it. He's not Asian. He's not a woman. Like, guys,
I loved it
love these movies just as much as we do. Or like The Hate You Give, or Monsters. What we were
Monsters and Men.
Monsters and Men. I mean, these are great films. I love them, but I love lots of kinds of films. I made Swiss Army Man. It's about boners, and so it's like, I don't know.
You also did The Squid and the Whale and The Diary of a Teenage Girl, yeah?
I was an executive producer on The Squid and the Whale, and I did produce The Diary of a Teenage Girl, yes.
So just in that, I mean, between the 3 films that you mentioned that you produced, those are very different films, all 3 of them, in very different genres. We love you for that. And
Thank you.
And that just goes to prove the point that when there is a woman at the helm, it doesn't mean that the film has to be like some soft, romantic, thing.
No,
you know what I mean?
I'm not at all.
You're so not that chick.
I know.
You are so not that chick. But I'm just saying that it's about the art. And so the art has different layers and different facets to it. And just because you're a woman doesn't make you any less deaf to what the art is or the lanes of the art than a man.
Yeah. And what's exciting about what Cherry Picks I wanted to do, which Rotten Tomatoes doesn't. So Rotten Tomatoes has a tomato and a splat. And if you take this Rotten Tomatoes and take this idea and make it your own, I'm going to be mad. But that said, I can't do anything about it because whatever. But You know, but we have, you know, there's different things you're like, oh my God, I have to see that in a theater. You know, and I have to like get up and I have to see that in a theater like right now, like opening weekend. There's those kinds of movies, you know, like Moonlight for
like
me.
Black Panther. You got to see that in a
Exactly.
theater. You can't be sitting at home on your sofa watching Black Panther. I'm sorry.
Yes, you can also, but you know,
I'm
like,
just
but
saying.
there are certain, they're run, don't walk movies, right? So we have those. That's a bowl of cherries. That's the icon. This bowl of cherries. You know, it's not just one icon. Like one's good and one's bad. It's not thumbs up, thumbs down. It's about all the difference in between. So then there's other ones like, you know, it's really good and you should see it in the theater, but you know, whatever. And then there's some that are like, it's really good. Don't bother seeing it in the theater. Watch it while you're at home sick with strep throat. And then there's...
Why you gotta be sick with strep throat,
you know what I'm
Miranda?
saying? Well, you know, I personally see a lot of bad movies when I'm at home in bed sick because I'm like, oh, there's that one I never wanted to see but really wanted to see, you know? And I'll like, well, you know, 27 Dresses or something like that. I mean, I think 27 Dresses is a horrible movie, but I thoroughly enjoyed watching it from my bed when I was sick.
You are hilarious. I saw this quote on your site that said, talent isn't what gets you in the business, it's what keeps you in the business.
Yeah, I read that in the Hollywood Reporter when I was starting the production company because I kind of felt as an actress, am I creating some sort of, you know, vanity production company since I'm going to act in the things I produce? And at that time, you know, female actresses were not even producing their own stuff. I mean, Drew Barrymore was not producing her own stuff at that time. That was, I think she was one of the first people who started. So I kind of felt like, oh, it was kind of like this. I felt a little unworthy.
Oh, you shouldn't. You know,
no, but I was young. You know, I was like in my 20s. I needed a guy to help. You know, like, there's a lot of things. But
this is the thing. Women have been producing content all the way back to Mary Pickford and probably before her. So it's ironic to me that, you know, we had Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks, and I can't remember the third person. They all started United Artists. Yeah. And then Barbara Streisand and some other people picked up the mantle from them and kept it going. And then Barbara Streisand started directing. So it's very interesting to me.
Well, so I said that I would always kind of say that, but you know, the male people in my life were like, yeah, well, those people are already famous, and I get it. And
but
so
they weren't when they were doing it.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, point is what was the question?
I was making a comment, actually.
Yes.
But I was simply saying that, you know, for decades there's been this struggle for female filmmakers and producers and writers and directors to get out into the forefront. And everybody thought that had changed when Kathryn Bigelow won the Oscar, and it did for like 2 seconds, and then it kind of flipped right back to where it was before a little bit. You know, like, and I say that because Kathryn Bigelow directed Detroit and got all this backlash for directing Detroit. No one looked at Detroit, and that was a really good movie. Nobody looked at Detroit and said, kudos for her for bringing the story to the screen. Like, that was a story that I didn't even know of, and it was a story that centered around people of color. I had never heard about that incident that happened in Detroit, so I was happy to just know about the story. I didn't care who directed it. I was glad that Kathryn Bigelow directed, but people always have something to say. Yeah. They were like, oh, well, you know, how come they couldn't get a person of color to do it? Because guess what? Kathryn Bigelow had just won an Oscar, and a studio's going to give her money to make it. I hate to say that, but that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And she is damn talented.
Right, and it's not like she's a schlub.
Not that there's not amazing black people to do it as well.
But I'm just saying, it's not like she's a schlub. So there's that. Yeah. And it's like, just like you were saying, be kinder to the middle-aged white men. And let's try to be open to everybody in every lane and support them, because what happens when we don't is that it goes back to the status quo norm, and that's what I don't want to see happen.
Yeah, and you know, I think there's a very fine line, because there does need to be more women and minorities being able to create stories about themselves. I use Bad Moms as an example because I'm a really bad mom. No, I love the concept. I love the actresses in it, and I just felt like, oh man, you know, that could have been so much better. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'll go to the part of being like, oh, because it's like 2 guys wrote it and 2 guys directed it, and maybe that is why, and maybe that isn't why. I don't know. But you know, I just directed and, you know, like rewrote a movie that's a father-son story, and it's very dear to my heart, and it's a way for me to express my feelings to my own father, and I identify with the 17-year-old boy.
But that's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's about the art.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
about it's at the
But
end of the
people
day.
are like, why is a woman?
Exactly.
Like, I've had writers say,
Exactly.
why is she telling a story about a philandering man, you know, in this time as a woman? And it's like, well, you know what? That's what I need to express right now.
Exactly. I'm really, just like I said, I'm really looking forward to the day where the pronoun isn't used. I'm looking forward to the day where that's not happening, where it's not, where people aren't, oh, well, how can she direct a movie because it's about men? It's a human story. At the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all bleed red at the end of the day. Yeah. So how about just being engrossed in the actual story that's being told? And let's not get caught up in who's telling the story, what gender the person is that's telling the story, what color the person is that's telling the story.
Or sexuality. So many people thought Barry was gay because
LGBTQ. Like, let's just not get caught up in that. Yeah. Let's just focus on the story that's being told and support the story. Remember a while ago when The Color Purple came out, right? Eons ago. The Color Purple came out based on the Alice Walker book, and people had a nervous breakdown that Steven Spielberg was directing that film. And I was just like, can we just like celebrate the fact that Alice Walker's Pulitzer Prize winning, award winning novel has been turned into a feature film and is giving people of color who at that time were far few and in between seen on screen? Can we celebrate that? But no. What happened? Oh, Steven Spielberg, and then it got nominated for an unprecedented like 12 or 13 Academy Awards and took home none. None.
I love that movie.
Because
it's
people,
so sad though. Ugh.
The book is really good. But because people were popping off at the mouth. Yeah. So I use that example just to say that that's a clear example of how when you pop off at the mouth for the wrong reasons, you end up setting the art back instead of propelling it forward.
Yeah. I mean, again, like it's you know, we have to be able to talk about it, and we have to be able to talk about it in a way that still gets us to focus on trying to get more people of, you know,
LGBTQ. Let me help a sister out.
You know, I'm not great with acronyms. What are they?
That's an acronym. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, and I can't even pronounce acronym. Okay. Anacrophids.
You are so silly.
But or you know, minorities or women and everything, we still have to like push those out. But like, is there? I guess the question we should all be asking ourselves is like, is there a way that we can do that without also denying the fact that we can all make stories? Like, there's no reason you cannot write and direct a story that's about all white people in wherever.
A period piece. I should be able to direct a period piece if I want to.
You either are good at it or you're not. And at the end of the day.
And that is the bottom line. Yeah. You're either good at it or you're not. Let's talk about your friend Mari Heller.
Okay.
And I know we were talking briefly before we came on the air about her film Can You Ever Forgive Me? And we were discussing the fact that it's not getting a lot of attention this award season, other than the fact that everybody's talking about Melissa McCarthy's performance in it. So I've seen the film a few times, and this is the thing. Melissa McCarthy is a beast. She's just good, period. I'm a huge fan of hers. I talk about her on Black Tomatoes at Black Hollywood Live all the time. Yeah. I'm going to need you to come over here, Melissa McCarthy, because I talk about you all the time, and I'm your biggest fan, so I'm going to need you to work that out. I'm just saying. But I talk about her all the time, and I talk about how supremely talented she is. And when I saw Can You Ever Forgive Me, it was a departure for her because Melissa, just by nature, has a really large personality. She's a large person, bigger than life. Her personality is, but it's grounded. Even though she's this, it's still grounded in some sort of reality, and I can't even describe or put my finger on what that is.
Well, it's acting. I mean, she did that in St. Vincent's too.
Right, but it's fascinating. But and even with that, she got no acknowledgments for St. Vincent's. I think Bill Murray did, but she didn't, not a whole lot. And I see the same pattern being repeated with her with this film. She's gotten stellar reviews across the board for it. Like, I don't think there's anybody that's seen it.
No, everyone loves her.
You know, that said that she was bad.
Like finishing your sentences.
That's okay, but everybody loves her, and she's gotten really stellar reviews from it, but it's just not getting a whole lot of love, and Mari's not getting a whole lot of love. And I think what Mari did with that film is really quite stellar. There's a scene at the beginning of the film when the film first starts where Melissa McCarthy's character has this glass I think it's whiskey. It's brown liquor. That's all I know. It's brown liquor. It could be Hennessy. I don't know, but it's brown liquor in a glass, and all you hear is like the clinkling of the glass, the ice in the glass, and then eventually the camera pulls out and you see her drinking it while she's writing. That's all you needed to know about Lee Israel and who she was it set the tone for the rest of the film, which is brilliant. Like, that's a very small thing, but that's brilliant. And I'm like, can we just acknowledge that Marielle Heller is like,
so she has a voice.
Come
so
on.
there's directors, right? And then there's directors that have a voice where you're like, oh, that is a Wes Anderson film. Like, it's a style, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you think about Mari, so this has only been Mari's second film.
Exactly.
But she did something very similar with her first film, which was Diary of a Teenage Girl.
Mm-hmm.
She took a period piece based on a true story, took an actress, Kristen Wiig, who's very, very big, and grounded her down to
stripped
reality.
her down, yep.
And made this really kind of gritty human story. And if you look at both of those trailers back to back, or both those films back to back, you can see Mari has her own style. And that's what a director is, right? And whether you are a Coen brother, they have their style. Mari Heller has her own style.
You're absolutely right.
And I think in terms of Catherine Bigelow, what's interesting is, her films are all kind of,
they're kind of dark,
but they're like, if you like
an action film.
If you showed me all of them and you told me like, well, which directors directed which, and let's say they were all hers, I wouldn't know that. But there are certain people that like they just have their
they have their signature on the film, mm-hmm.
And that's as a producer, that's the kind of directors that I like to work with. I mean, like I worked with James Gunn on Super before he did Guardians of the Galaxy, and like he has a voice. It's like when I met with Marvel for their recommendation and whether or not he should do it, I was like, as long as you make sure you allow him to pick the music. Because this is where he's, this is something he's really, really strong at. He's a strong vision of. And I mean, they did. And one of the best things about that movie is the music.
You're right.
And so there's people with strong visions. The Daniels, Swiss Army Man. You know that the next thing that they're going to make is going to be crazy, and wild. So, and Noah Baumbach as well.
I love him
stuff.
so much, and I love his wife Greta Gerwig. Oh my God, they're my favorites ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Do you think the fact that you are an actress and that Marielle is an actress, do you think that colors or has some type of impact on how you guys direct and produce?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I mean, I don't know about producing per se. Producing helps me direct,
mm-hmm.
and acting helps me direct, because as a director, those are two of your main collaborators,
mm-hmm.
right? And if you know how to talk to them and how to listen to them and know what they like and know what they hate, then it's a lot easier for you.
Okay, so tell me about, I know you're working on 2 films. Tell me about them real quick.
So I directed a movie with Jim Gaffigan that will be coming out on Father's Day. Right now it's in the festival circuit. I've been using it kind of as a workshop.
Mm-hmm.
The festival release is a little different than the one that will be out, and we'll have a new title in June, and the new title will be called Being Frank. This
mm-hmm.
is the first time I'm ever saying what the title is publicly.
Oh, yay.
So
I got an exclusive.
You got an exclusive.
Black Tomatoes on Black Hollywood Live.
That's right. And Jim Gaffigan is really fun. And it's a comedy, but it's also very, very touching.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a 17-year-old boy who finds out his father has a second family and blackmails him in the 90s.
Ooh, nice.
So that's one I'm working on. I have a movie I produced that's going to Sundance, that's a documentary called the Untitled Amazing Jonathan documentary.
Oh.
So if you're at Sundance, come and see it.
I will. Oh, I can't wait.
So that was just announced. I mean, there's lots going on. There's lots of...
Anything else you could talk about or no?
Well, there's a bunch of stuff that I'm trying to get made.
Right.
I'm about to fly to the Dominican Republic to work with director Leila Jansi again as an actor.
Ooh, nice.
So I did 2 films with her, or 3 films with her actually. 2 in Ghana and 1 in Compton.
Okay. Do you have any more plans to act again?
Yeah, I'm going to the Dominican Republic to play a doctor in her movie.
Oh, you're going to play?
In December.
Oh, I thought this was something that you were producing.
Oh, no, I'm not producing that.
Oh, look at you.
Yes, I know. So
I love it.
It's exciting.
Oh. And you said you said something about Cherry Picks. The beta site wasn't up yet.
So
Is that
it's
what
the
you said?
first version. So it is the beta. So www.thecherrypicks.com. You'll go to it. You'll see it. Like the search engine's not great yet. There's things that we're working on, and so then the next rendition of it comes out, as soon as possible. But that will be next year, and it'll be, slicker and better and faster and.
Those are all the adjectives that kind of describe you. You're slicker and better and faster, and I am so grateful that you decided to come over here and let me chat with you at Black Tomatoes. It really meant the world to me that you said yes.
Oh my God. How can I say no? You're so fun.
Because you're so busy and you have so much going on that I know this is in the middle of your day, and it is you had to get over here. It's just a lot. So I appreciate the fact that you took time out of your schedule and your day, and you're producing and you're acting and you're directing and Miss Cherry Picks to come over here and holler at a sister, because I really appreciate you for it.
Well, I appreciate you as well.
Thank you. So, y'all, that does it for this special edition of Black Tomatoes here at Black Hollywood Live. My guest today was Miranda Bailey, multi-hyphenate actor, producer, director, mom, wife, just a multitude of things, and the founder of Cherry Picks. You can find information about Cherry Picks at www.thecherrypicks.com. And where can we find you on social media, Miranda?
Miranda M. Bailey. Everywhere.
Everywhere?
Yeah. Well, Twitter, Instagram, Miranda M. Bailey. And then Facebook, Miranda Bailey Film.
Okay, cool. Well, that does it for us. And, of course, you can find me across all social media platforms at The Curvy Critic. Any reviews you can find at thecurvyfilmcritic.com. And, of course, you can always check out Black Tomatoes every Sunday right here at Black Hollywood Live on 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Until the next time, love, peace, and hair grease. Bye-bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio. Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in. The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.